Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever. We're back with another podcast. It's been a little while. So today we're going to be talking about, we're going back to our sin series. Sin series? It sounds silly. We're going to do...
Serious sin series sounds silly.
Said Sally by the seashore. We're going to be doing, diving into the sin of greed or avarice. So Calvin did a little bit of research today on this topic.
So we'll just start out by getting into a definition. So avarice in Latin, which is avarice, is also greed. And in Catholic tradition, which is rooted in teachings from Aquinas and the Catholic Catechism, the definition for this would be an inordinate love of riches. It is excessive, disordered desire to acquire and hoard earthly possessions. That's from CCC 2536. And it is listed not as a sin itself, but as one of the 7 capital vices. We'll get into that in a second. Those classifications came from St. Gregory the Great. And this distinction of capital vices is they're a negative habit or a root that gives rise to other evils. A sin is the actual evil deed that springs from that root. So, I know I tried to explain this last time when we dealt with pride, and I did so bad that I had to make fun of myself in the editing. And I actually put the description up on the screen because I could type it out way better than I was apparently trying to say it the last time.
Hey,
However,
it made sense to me, but you know.
I'm going to try this again just for those who maybe didn't see the other one or didn't bother to read the wall of text that I put up on the screen. So, like myself, I grew up thinking that the deadly sins were, I guess, comparable or the same as mortal sins, probably from the verbology, deadly, mortal, death. And it kind of, I guess it led to confusion. And it wasn't until I heard in a homily a priest, a very good priest, he was talking about a specific sin. And what he said in the homily was something like, that's why they call this sin a deadly sin. It will lead you to death. But emphasizing the fact that it wasn't a mortal sin, but it would lead you to that mortal sin. And this kind of got me thinking on my way home, kind of an analogy that started to click into my head was even the terms that we use now for like mortal. You have a term that would be a mortal wound, which would be a wound that caused death, right?
Yeah.
But then if you said something like assault with a deadly weapon, it didn't cause a death, but it was...
Necessarily.
Right, but it was assault with a deadly weapon, referring to the fact that the weapon itself was deadly. Or if you say that's a deadly snake, right? Snake might not have necessarily killed somebody, but it is deadly in and of itself. So messing around with the 7 deadly sins, what we call in Catholicism the capital vices, not sin directly, but it's like recklessly playing with a loaded gun or trying to kiss a cobra, right? You're flirting too close with the sin, and it is very dangerous now to lead you to actual mortal sin that's going to cause death to the soul, right? So
Makes sense.
that's a little bit better, I think. When I rewatch this, if it's not good, I'll put a clown face over my face or something.
That's a good idea. You should put one over my face anyway. All
Anyway.
right. So we're going to do kind of an all-encompassing look at greed, but I noticed that it says something specifically about like earthly objects or coveting property essentially. But can someone also be greedy of, is it still considered greed if you're talking about, coveting a woman like somebody else's wife or something like that? Could that not be in the same line as greed, or is that something completely different?
Yeah, so some of these, and we'll probably touch on this a little bit later on when we talk about Aquinas' view on kind of the, earlier I mentioned that the vice was the root and then the sin was what springs forth of it. We'll talk about what Aquinas talks about, basically the spring forth part of it. But yeah, you have some examples like idolatry could be considered greedy. The 10th commandment specifically, coveting coveting your neighbor's wife or goods or whatever, all
Right.
those would be kind of falling into that root of greed, the vice, leading to that sin, now mortal. So,
Right.
yeah.
I know I don't want to go back and beat a dead horse, but we did discuss last time in our other sin series we did on pride. Pride is kind of the ultimate driver of every sin. So why would somebody be greedy? Because they want to look better, they want to have more stuff than the other person because they're prideful. But greed is also another one of those things that, like we were just saying, it ties into so many other sins. I think that's kind of the nature of most sins, is that you can tie them to multiple different sins to make one mega sin.
Yeah, and when you really start kind of developing this kind of a view of sin and virtues, something like greed or pride being tied into, because a lot of sins can be tied to multiple different of these roots, for one, but pride is really the key factor here, because pride, what that does is it makes you think everything about you. It's very self-centric, right? And all of the sins, all of the vices are all self-centric.
Right.
Lust is all about feeding a desire. Gluttony is all about feeding a desire. Pride even is about fulfilling yourself. And greed, it's about fulfilling a desire to want more things. So all
Right.
these things are very self-centric, which is really kind of the beauty in the teaching here, because when you get to the virtues, which we haven't really touched on, the virtues are, opposites of the sins and somewhat of the cure, and it's because they're turned. You're no longer looking inward, you're now looking outward at those around you, like charity, right? But that pride is kind of that key driver there still, even with something like greed. You're
Right.
still looking at what do you want and what can you obtain and how long can you get it, or how long will it take to get it, right?
Right.
So I do think that there was, I have it here. Okay, yeah, so this is good. So the church itself teaches that simply having money or working to provide for your family isn't a sin. The sin happens when we commit a fundamental reversal, turning the wealth from a means to the end.
Right.
So instead of the wealth that you're gaining being for the means of, taking care of your family, maybe you do need a bigger house, you do need to make more money because you need extra room or extra space or extra food. You need to go out and get the money to get that food, right? But when you make it
neighborhood or something.
right, but when your primary driving force or focus behind it is just to get more money and just to have more and get more, that's when you've now crossed that threshold. So
Right. People are celebrating something that's evil, but it's not just the sin of the sexuality and so multiple times in the Bible, but it is
being proud
the
of
celebration of that sin. It's a celebration of sin in general. It's a celebration of being against God, and that was kind of what you were saying before. All right. Well, we're back from our short little break. Are we going to be adding things in?
I'll add something.
Okay. So there's going to be some little fun stuff in between. Might be something of one of our upcoming events. I can't talk, or maybe it's just going to be something blah.
Just waiting for one of us to say it. So.
All right. Were we going straight to Scripture at this point?
Yep, we're going to take some Scripture examples that deal with greed, or that allude to it, and we'll just read the Scripture and we'll start talking about it. That's about as professional as we get here. We've got our friend Jonathan over off to the side here. You cannot see him. We don't have more than one camera, so you'll hear his voice. He's going to do the reading, and we will discuss. Yeah. So
good.
the first one we've got is from 1 Timothy 6:10.
For the love of money is the root of all evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced their hearts with many pangs.
Okay.
So this one, to me, something like that. Like I was actually just kind of thinking while we were setting up mics and stuff. because when I was doing the research, well, not when I was doing the research, but when I was kind of putting together, what I thought would be good talking points to jump us off for. When I say research, guys, this isn't extensive research. I'm not a theologian here. I usually just look for something that might be interesting for me and Paul to maybe banter about back and forth, and that's about the extent of my research. When I read this one, the love for money is the root of all evils, it did direct me back to our pride episode where we said the pride was the root of all sin. I'm like, how can pride be the root of all sin, but yet greed is considered the root of all evil?
But it's the love of money. It's not money itself.
No, I get it, but as the root of all evils. So if we think about this in like Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
Once you want a lot, not all the time, I guess there's exceptions out there, but you see it a lot with a lot of the big music, with the music industry probably even more. Once you do start creating that money, it does open up for other evils, because not only now, like if you and I wanted to go on a gambling binge, we'd probably have a pretty short run.
yeah, absolutely.
But if you have, $300 million in your bank account, you have a lot of money now to indulge in a lot of different things.
A lot
so
more
now
mistakes.
You can, whatever the case is, you can afford any of it. So
Right.
you can buy all the food, you can have all the lavish lifestyle, you can overindulge in everything because you have that money now supporting it. So as I read it, I never really contemplated or had to think too deeply about this. This is a common phrase. We've heard it probably many times.
Right.
It comes from the Bible. I've just never actually sat and thought about it until we were kind of prepping for this, and it was something we were going to be talking about. But you can kind of agree. You can see how money does change people for the negative in a lot of ways, a lot of the time, especially when it comes to some of our famous actresses and actors
Right.
and singers.
God gives us grace through the gifts and talents that we have, and sometimes we need to help those people find those graces. We need to give people that opportunity. And I was just talking to our pastor a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, and he was talking about, I think it was a saint who was tormented because he had he lived in an area with some rich people, and there was a super, super rich person up on a hill, and I'm probably butchering the story, but overall I think I'll get the premise of it right. But she lived up on this hill, and she had tons and tons of money, had nothing to, didn't know what to do with it. But she was just money oriented. And so God came to him and said, hey, you need to go up there and talk to that woman and tell her that she could do a lot of good for the church. You could do a lot of good things. And he was like, no, she's not that kind of person. She's not going to be interested. I don't want to waste my time and get the door slammed in my face or whatever. And so he thought about it and didn't do it. And eventually the lady died. And then he received a vision of that woman roasting in hell because she was never given that opportunity to. So he took that on himself as if, he didn't encourage her to take that money and do something good with it. So the only reason that ties into greed, obviously, is just the money thing. But she could have had the opportunity to let it go, but it was never presented to her. I don't know if he is at fault at that point. I know he probably feels like he is, but God gave him the opportunity. But
yeah, and you'd almost have to feel somewhat at fault for. I mean, I understand that feeling, not because of any like personal story that's anywhere close, but I mean, even the Bible tells us, and I know you can get flack for this for saying like when you call out sin, like we've done with pride, like we've done with other things, that's meant to be a charitable act, right?
Yeah.
And we're called to do that biblically.
In
that
love.
We are, charitably in love. You're called to call out the sin. You don't allow your neighbor to continue sinning. You're supposed to present it to them.
Right.
And God warns of this. He says, if you don't warn them, it's on you. If you do warn them, it's on them.
Yeah.
Right. So I can understand from a Christian worldview, struggling with that after it happens, like you were feeling compelled to say something or do something, then you never did, and then something happens and now you will never have the chance to, and now you kind of feel like there's a weight on you because of it. I can get that. And I also know the answer for it.
Okay, what's the answer?
Confession.
Well, obviously, if he's a saint, we already know that he's gone to his eternal reward. But I'm sure that weighed very heavily on his conscience.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I can see that. We have another Bible verse. This one is St. Paul, Galatians 3:5.
Put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you, immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and covetousness, which is idolatry. On account of these, the wrath of God is coming.
Thank you. So in this one, we're hearing something like idolatry being categorized as something that needs to be put to death within us, which is really what greed is boiling down to, right? Greed is you wanting something, you trying to obtain it, and you need to essentially detach from that to not have that that vice of greed. And what is something like idolatry, and even money itself can become an idol. If you're chasing it and that's all you want, and you just want more and more, and that's the sole focus of everything everything that you're projecting into the world is just to get more. That itself can become an idol, right?
Right.
So putting to death that earthly desire is the only way to not feel the condemnation of God. I was having a hard time finding words there, but I think I got it.
So
anyway,
what is when we're looking at greed? I think it's kind of hard to put into words because it can be money, it can be all these other things. Like we said, it can be tied to different things. But I think in most sin,
because what's like somebody wanting attention? Is that greedy? Like if somebody's wanting attention all the time, I mean, it's also prideful.
But what is
greedy?
What is what is the root? I don't mean like what sin is the root or whatever, but I mean people are looking to. They've got this God-shaped hole in their life, and they're trying to fill it with something. And so they start filling it with either possessions or women or whatever is around them. And so if we're looking at like if you're somebody who struggles with greed, if it's something that you're trying to fill up your life with just pointless possessions, what is it that you can do to start walking away from that? There is the counteractive graces. So if you were to do something like charity, to try to combat the greed, doing something instead of giving to yourself but giving to others, that's one of the steps that you can take to start. Looks like we have to take a break here in a second. So, but that's one of the things that you can do to start healing that void and letting God in instead of filling making your void bigger. And anyway, we'll be right back after these messages.
Do you ever feel the weight of unspoken burdens? The gnawing regret of past missteps? The heavy cloak of guilt that dims your inner light? You're not alone. Millions experience the disquiet of a troubled conscience, the lingering shadows of actions unaddressed. For over 2 millennia, one powerful therapy has been trusted to restore the spirit. Introducing Confessional. This foundational treatment, now refined for the modern age, is designed to lift the weight, illuminate the path, and restore your inner balance. Confessional works by activating your innate capacity for truth and reconciliation, a process known to be effective since antiquity. Its unique spiritual compound encourages genuine self-reflection and the courageous act of vocalizing your deepest regrets, transforming them into stepping stones towards a brighter future. In historical data, patients consistently reported a dramatic decrease in feelings of shame, remorse, and internal strife. Confessional isn't just a treatment, it's a timeless transformation. Don't just confess, treat the underlying guilt with Confessional. While most individuals tolerate Confessional well, some may experience a range of profound and positive side effects, including a sudden surge of inner peace and tranquility, an unshakable sense of lightness, and renewed energy, deep and restful sleep free from troubling thoughts, unprompted acts of kindness and compassion towards others, increased empathy and understanding in personal relationships, a remarkable ability to forgive oneself and others, spontaneous bursts of joy and unburdened laughter, and in some rare cases, a profound and lasting sense of grace, and most of all, absolution by the grace of God. For when you're ready to embrace true freedom, Ask your priest if Confessional's well-established protocol is right for you. Confessional. Reclaim your soul.
All right, so you actually you led into a kind of a perfect segue to just bring up some St. Augustine stuff. So you had tapped into some ancient St. Augustine philosophy of theology as you were talking there when you said giant God-sized hole that they were trying to fill. So from St. Augustine, it's understood that avarice was considered disordered love. And he explained that the human heart is designed to seek infinite satisfaction in God, and it misdirects its longing toward finite, perishable goods. And this is why avarice, greed, leads to misery. It's a finite object that can never satisfy a infinite longing.
Yeah.
So your God-sized hole kind of analogy that you used very much triggered this for me to scroll down and find it, because I knew I read that earlier as you were saying it. I'm like, yeah, this is here. So look at you.
I like to say great minds think alike, but I probably heard something along those lines and just parroted it. But beautiful.
As a side note, Saint Aquinas, he detailed it how this particular capital sin poisons behavior, and noting that it produces the daughters of fraud and treachery and insatiability to mercy. And that can be the next thing we're going to talk about, maybe some of the what he refers to as the daughters. If you are still watching, and you were watching at the beginning, we kind of mentioned that the capital vices, deadly sins, are a root in which sin springs from. So these daughters of greed are going to be what St. Thomas Aquinas categorized as kind of the offspring of greed. We're going to have some of that. But our esteemed colleague over here made a comment, and I wanted you to...
Yeah, he waited till the microphones were off and everything.
Wanted you to chime back in with that.
Yeah, I noticed speaking a lot with atheists or people who maybe aren't atheists, believe in some kind of God, because they don't want to believe in heaven, right? Because they want to be on earth to experience all the good things, And I've noticed that a lot of the atheists that I've spoken with anyway, they're more likely to believe in rebirth more than anything, because they said that they want to experience what's on earth. They don't want to be in heaven and experiencing from a third person point of view of something like that. They want to be on earth and they want more.
See, and that's an awesome perspective, and I'm glad that you brought it up, because that even kind of trails into some of the religious practices of people that do believe in reincarnation, rebirth. Not that I'm an expert on anything, but from what I understand, those religions to believe is that typically your how you live your life is going to be dependent on how you get reborn, right? So if you're a bad person, you get reborn as a slug. If you're a good person, you get reborn in better circumstances. And then if you're a good person again, even better circumstances, and it leads up. So even with that, now we're talking about mostly, I'm pretty sure, paganistic belief systems anyway when we're talking about rebirth. But the whole goal there is just to get more earthly stuff. Even when you die, you're reborn and you get more earthly stuff because you were good the last time you did it.
Right.
So it's a very good analogy into greed, I think.
Yeah. What is the end goal in that whole way of looking at life?
I think it ends in correct me if I'm wrong. It's enlightenment. So they keep going until a certain point where they've been so good for so long, they're enlightened, and then they don't have to be reborn again.
So if they really want to, then they get to that real rich and famous level, and they're like, I'm going to live a little cruddy right now so that I can
do a
come
few
back
bad
as
things. Take
couple,
one notch down.
Yeah.
I can deal with the 2 million. I had 10 million this time. I can go a step down if I need to.
Keep the wave going.
Up and down. I don't know. That's probably
God.
Say what?
Say if you're not seeking God, nothing will ever be enough.
Yeah. It's kind of a crazy. I don't know. It's the whole atheist worldview. What is the point? I mean, I know that a lot of atheists are good people, not because their atheism makes them such, but because God's written that on their heart, whether they realize it or not. God's put that on their heart. But I do know a lot of I don't know a lot of atheists. I don't want to say it that way, but the atheists I do know are very material driven. It's you know, a lot of stuff and a lot of time doing things that are just stuff oriented.
And I would say that atheists, at least in our culture, have a benefit of being in our culture.
Yeah.
So what they, although God does write the natural law in our heart, it can be disformed and malfunctioned and brainwashed in other ways. That's where you get some really evil activity that happens, influence, let me put it that way.
Right.
But that natural law is written on our hearts, and our Christian society helps brighten that natural law, because we live in a society largely based off of Christian structures and ideals, and so
What is the that is it Christopher Hitchens, that famous atheist? There was a few of them, like Dawkins and Hitchinson or something, and one of them that's still alive. I was just talking about this like a year ago around Christmas time, and he was talking about how he prefers a Christian society over a Muslim society, over
even though he's atheist,
Yeah.
because of the
the
moral,
joy
ethical,
that
moral,
he sees that
yeah.
it brings into the world. It's kind of I mean, maybe one day God will wake him up completely, but even then, he's smart enough to at least acknowledge that the way that Western society, which would be the Christian civilization, it does brighten up the world around it, because people are driven to do things better for each other rather than just for themselves. Not that we always do live up to those standards, but it is anyway.
Yeah, and we could probably do a whole episode on ethics and morality and the formation of conscience, because I think whether or not even an atheist, whether or not they would admit it or could admit it, some might, the society that they live in, being largely Christian, is going to affect your worldview. It's going to affect your conscience. It's going to affect what you think is good versus bad.
Right.
I think we could do a whole. I think I sent you. I mean, I sent you that thing the other day.
Thing.
I'm not going to describe it here,
Yeah.
but the argument that I made based
yeah.
off of this same kind of premise.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot there to be explored. But back on the tracks. Let's get agreed.
How are we doing on time? That's what we have left, or that's how much we've taken?
That's 7 seconds. That's what that means.
Okay. 8 seconds.
All right. So we have a couple of parables that we can look through. Now this one is the folly of the rich fool. All right. This is from Luke 12. I'm going to summarize it. But in this story, a rich man has a massive record-breaking harvest. And he says, what should I do? I have nowhere to store my crops. And he decides to burn down all of his barns and build up bigger ones in order to store them. And then he says and then he tells himself, I have ample goods.
Right. Now he can sit back and
I
drink
can now last for many years and eat and drink and be happy. Right.
Right.
But God's response to this is responding, "You fool! This night your life will be demanded of you, and things that you have prepared, to whom will they belong?" This actually kind of ties into the story that you were talking about before,
Right.
with the lady on the hill, maybe from the reverse angle.
Right.
If she was storing, if I don't know the whole situation, but if she was just storing up all this wealth and then one day gone, where does it go? What does it do?
It goes to the state or something else, and it could have gone to.
Very common linguistic phrase. You can't take it with you, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so with this, I mean, do you have any thoughts on this particular parable?
Yeah, but I think we should probably take a break. I think we're right at that time. So we'll be back in just a second.
You can help support our mission and keep this channel going by visiting beadsforbabies.org. We've just launched fantastic new merchandise, including our popular kids t-shirts. You can also check out our incredible comic book style Mysteries of the Rosary designs, now available on t-shirts as well. They're a vibrant way to share and teach the faith. Every purchase goes directly towards supporting our work and spreading faith to families everywhere. Shop today at beadsforbabies.org. We truly appreciate your support. All right, I lost my original notes for. No, not that at all. We were just discussing the parable of the rich man with his grain.
Right. Yeah, I think. I read that today. I was reading that on my lunch break. That parable came up, and that's
Almost like divine providence that I would show up at your house today with that parable loaded to talk to you about.
Yeah, kind of strange, huh? It's weird how that works sometimes. But I don't know that I have anything crazy to say or anything, mind blowing to say about that, except that I was reading it today and it made me think. That's where I was thinking about the hole in the heart. That's where that came from. I was thinking about the, storing up your riches here, putting so much time and effort and trying to make yourself wealthy and whatever here, and completely forgetting about that inner portion of yourself that we should be dedicating to God. For somebody who completely has given up on owning anything, if you can basically take a vow of poverty where you don't want anything, when you don't want anything and you're just living bare bones, and when something gets taken away from you, it's not soul crushing, but these people who live day to day for that extra dollar in their pocket, for that extra widget in their, on their wall or whatever, all of those things, and those things get taken away, it's so much more of a blow because that is their God. They've put that in the place of God, and so that gets that gets torn down, and now they're left there starving because they don't have, the true hunger for because they've been filling themselves up with nothing, with something that's going to stay here when they pass away. Anyway, so.
No, and you touched on a point there too. One of the cures really listed from the not necessarily virtue, but one of the cures is detachment and divine providence. So to trusting in divine providence and detachment can kind of cure you from greed. And when I did read that earlier, that portion, that is true. Like you said, if you've taken a vow and somebody tries to take something from you, it's not soul crushing to you. Very similarly, if you're detached from things, like what you were saying, and you believe in providence, things don't affect you as badly, right? So if you're like down on your luck, down on your last dollar, but you know that God is taking care of you, and then you get, a check for some overpayment you did to a credit card 10 years ago show up in the mail the next day. Like these things happen. They happen a lot to a lot of people. Yeah. I can say that since I've come back to the faith, I've been more aware of divine providence when it's happening or when it's just happened. I can recognize it as such, and I think that helps me give credit where credit is due. And I've been able to even take a look back on my life and realize how many times that's actually happened. Yeah. Where it wasn't me. Like I was toast. There was nowhere I could go, but yet somehow I got to the next step. Somehow something happened, right? And I could go off for days about things over my lifetime that happened, but I didn't even realize it until I came back to the faith and started to recognize it real time. Yeah. I think I told you in the mail the next day, like I told you, this is going to be a stupid little story, but it has to do with divine providence too, and recognizing that is a key to kind of detaching, I think, from any sin, really. Once you realize that God is so active in your life, and once you're realizing that, and that's kind of taking hold on you, I guess the temptation lessens. To want sin, the repulsion of sin becomes more apparent because you're trying to be there with God more. There was a day where we went to Mass, and we didn't. What did we do? Was it Mass first? I don't remember. We went to Mass. It was Sunday, and I've told you, personal conversations before. I'm try not to shop on Sundays. Try to keep unless it's absolutely need to do, like we need to get stuff for dinner. Try not to do it typically. But there was one day where my kid asked if we could go to the swap meet. And even driving there, I even mentioned to my wife, because we agreed, because he really wanted to, and we never get a chance to go. And it was Sunday. We didn't have any other plans for the day. I know part of the rule is you shouldn't do anything that you don't enjoy, right? this is enjoyable. But then as I'm driving there, I even made a comment to my wife about going to a swap meet on Sunday. I'm like, did Jesus kind of kick the swap meet out on us?
Well, it wasn't
like
exactly
he came in with
swap
a
meet, but yeah.
right, but kind of very similar imagery of Jesus coming in and whipping people out. Well, we pulled up, and the swap meet's closed. Right, and then I was like, well, that was a bummer. We had to explain to our little one who doesn't understand really when things don't go his way that all the time.
Right.
That it was closed. We couldn't go after we told him we were going. So we pull out and we drive, and I'm kind of feeling bad. Like, oh man, like, how about we stop and get a soda, right, from the soda shop down the street? My wife looks it up, and it's closed on Sundays. And then it's about to rain. I looked at my wife. I'm like, this has got to be a sign. Like, we
home.
left to go to the swap meet. It's closed. I offered the soda shop. It's closed. God does not want us out here shopping and doing this stuff today. But the amazing thing was, right after I said that to her, as we pull up to the intersection where the soda shop was, there's a stupid little cardboard sign on the corner of the intersection that just says, "This is a sign." That's all it says on it. So I just said, this has got to be a sign. I look over and literally see the words, "This is a sign," on a stupid little homemade cardboard thing that a kid probably just made and put up to be funny.
Yeah.
But in the context of how it happened, when it happened, the conversation that was happening, God knew I was going to see that then.
Yep.
So we went home.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, here we are. Anyway, funny little anecdote
I
about
love stories like that.
divine
because
providence.
It's how much you start seeing Christ in the world when you're exploring your faith and trying to live as a Christian, and then you start seeing these things that you would probably overlook otherwise. And God's talking to you, your guardian angel's like, hey, what are you doing? And you're just you're going through life, completely oblivious. When you start noticing them, that's when it's really causes pause.
Yeah, and some more and more, the more you're around. So
yeah.
All right, let's break from that a little bit, and we're going to go back to greed. St. Thomas Aquinas, I hope.
What are we doing on time?
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, can I say something?
Yeah.
I think that the day of the Lord, though, Shabbat, I think is going to be different, right? Like the way that we practice it today. Like on Sundays, we're not meant to be fasting on those days either. Those are supposed to be the celebration days. So we're supposed to hang out with our families and have a nice dinner and lunch.
Right.
So I think like having fun days like that on Sundays definitely should be like, I wouldn't say a look down upon. Like just
I think for me, we started kind of trying to do the same thing. We don't do it nearly as much as we used to, but we tried to refrain from going shopping and stuff. But just the thought of like me going to the store on Sunday requires somebody else to be working on Sunday, and so that's kind of how I was looking at it. I know that there's jobs that require you to work on Sunday, police officers.
And there's people that
like
retire that need money. There's waitresses that need the tips, so going to the restaurant
so it
could be beneficial to them. There's a lot of ways to look at it.
I think it's meritorious, though, either way. If you choose to do that, I think it's a good sacrifice to, get your stuff on Saturday, or Friday.
And I guess part of it really, and we've talked about this before, is the what you're doing. So, like, shopping, like I said, that's why I justified it, because we do like the swap meet. We like to hang out as a family and go look around, and you're supposed to do enjoyable things on Sunday. That's why I said, okay, let's go. But you shouldn't be doing like your big grocery hauling that you don't want to do. It's the chore. You shouldn't be. But similarly, if you like mowing your lawn, that's your chance to get in your mower and ride back and forth, and you smell the fresh glass. If you enjoy that chore, if you enjoy that chore, go do it on Sunday, right?
Right.
So it's really
servile labor
more about respecting the Sabbath and what it's meant to be about, which is celebration, like you mentioned, less about strict no, do not shop, do not fast, really, because we shouldn't be fasting on Sunday.
Right.
On the seventh day, God slept, so we got to rest that day too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rest. And if you find joy in resting, but if you're the kind of person that you're like, I don't really like resting, I like doing jumping jacks all day, then you should do that.
Yeah, on the on this the whole lines of like going shopping and doing that stuff, there's also something to be said about doing gluttonous things where you're going out and just getting tons and tons of food, and you're just cramming yourself full, and or you're going out and just shopping because you're again filling that hole. So if you're putting yourself into a sinful situation on the Lord's Day, I think that's kind of extra, So, but anyway, we are out of time for this segment, so we will be back in just a second.
Daughters of Greed when we come back.
All right, Daughters of Greed.
All right. We've got the Daughters of Greed from
Oh, Daughters of Greed, that's what it was.
Daughters of Avarice from St. Thomas Aquinas. So this is just some of the offshoot sins that he had identified that were caused by the root of greed. We have treachery.
Okay.
Which is described as avarice leads a person to value money more than loyalty or family. The individual is willing to betray friends, family, or duty in the financial gain or avoidance of loss of significant a loss that's significant enough.
All right.
I'll keep reading, and then maybe we can discuss after. We have fraud, which is deceit. The excessive desire to acquire wealth quickly corrupts honestly in business. This includes cheating in transactions, dishonest measurements, false claims, or exploitation. And all are aimed at unjustified transferring a neighbor's property to oneself.
Communism.
Perjury. This is a grave sin where the individual lies under oath, swears falsely, bearing false witness, for a purpose of securing wealth, property, or avoiding debt. The love of money overrides the sanctity of truth and the fear of God. Lying, more habitual in a more habitual form, deceit, a more habitual form of deceit than perjury. The avaricious person habitually speaks falsehoods, exaggerates needs, or conceals their true financial state to protect or increase their possessions. Violence. The obsession with retaining and acquiring wealth leads to external aggression. This includes using physical force, legal intimidation, or coercion to seize property, deny deserved wages, or unjustly pressure others. And then finally, we have insensibility to mercy. This is a social culmination of avarice, as seen in the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. The attachment to be hoarded on money becomes so absolute that the person refuses to part with any excess, even when faced with a demonstrable, desperate need, thereby denying the works of charity. Now that one kind of touched. I mean that's Ebenezer Scrooge, right? Right?
Sorry.
Like the constant hoarding, not wanting to help, and just having the money, just to have the money. I mean, that's in pop culture, at least. I mean, I don't know.
I'm just imagining Scrooge McDuck now.
Scrooge McDuck.
Or was it Donald? Which one played the Disney version? I don't remember. Was it Scrooge or Donald?
Scrooge McDuck. No, it's his uncle or something.
That's Scrooge. Scrooge
McDuck
is his uncle, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That made me think something. I might need to scroll to find it because I don't know.
Okay, what was the one on the perjury? There was something there that read that description.
So it's a grave sin in where the individual lies under oath, swears falsely, for the purpose of securing wealth, property, or avoiding debt. The love of money overrides the sanctity of truth and the fear of God.
Are we talking about the Democratic Party?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, that sounds like a lot of society right now. But purging yourself to gain money, to gain wealth or status. I mean, those are all. I don't know. Something ran through my head earlier about it, but now I can't remember what it was. Yeah, never mind. Just pretend I didn't say anything.
Just pretend you didn't say anything. Yeah, the one that kind of reached out to me was the accumulation of wealth, because there's a saint. What was the saint's name? And this one's a bit extreme and is probably could be misunderstood by people. I feel like this is one that somebody would shout at somebody for, but Saint John Chrysostom. He took that idea even further by arguing that retaining wealth behind one's legitimate needs is a form of theft from the poor. So it's not so over hoarding that wealth isn't just greedy, but it's also a form of theft, stealing from people who could benefit from that excess of wealth that you've built up.
Okay. Sorry, hold on.
He makes the claim that the goods actually belong to them.
Time.
5:27.
Okay. Sorry. My brain went in two different directions at once.
You're good. Now, I think when we look at this inside, because I think me and you are both on a similar kind of social perspective. I don't know. I mean, this is a saint. I'm not a saint.
Yeah.
I don't know that a person has that far of an obligation to give away everything that they've accrued.
Right.
But I do understand the premise because I guess my thing is from a spiritual perspective. If I had $10 billion, I would like to think I wouldn't keep $10 billion.
Right.
Money is the root of all evil. I would like to think that I would be spiritually formed enough to know that I should. And we
again,
have a lot
it's
of
the
you have a
love
lot
of
of
money. That's the root of all evil.
right. You have a lot of philanthropical. I can't say that word. I'm not even trying.
Philanthropy.
People that do give away a lot of their wealth,
Okay.
right? And I think, I guess socially, I wouldn't be for something like the government coming in and taking
Right.
somebody else's wealth, because that's also a form of theft.
Yeah.
But I do think the person should.
Plus, they spend the
maybe-
money on transgender studies and all sorts of crazy stuff that isn't Christian
Right.
whatsoever.
But if the person has all this money and is doing no good back with that money,
Yeah.
and if you're, ridiculously rich, there's only so much money you can spend on so many good things doing at one time anyway.
Right, but if you look at the flip side of the same coin, we're looking at somebody, let's say, who has earned $10 billion, and they're putting that money into their company. They're hiring other employees. They're doing things that are allowing other people to also work. So therefore, I'm not saying you're keeping that money. You're investing it. You're reinvesting it into your employees. You're reinvesting it. And you're also giving it away to your church and stuff like that. That's different. That's not greed. I mean, there can be very, very wealthy people who live very simple, and they're not out there just to make money for
And
themselves.
I actually agree. I think that's why there's some nuance here, because I think this could be argued against maybe a conservative view of how socially we would believe things, right? Because I don't think that the government should come take their money from them.
No.
But I do think that their conscience should be well formed enough to know that they should be doing good with that money as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, because there is a point where even if you're reinvesting and you're paying your employees, if you're hiding money proverbially in the mattress because you just don't know what to do with it, there's something that can be done with it, right?
Right.
If you're just keeping it away and just racking it up,
Right.
even if you are investing and doing good in society and doing that, there's
Okay,
probably
so
some more that you can be doing.
What
from a
comes to
spiritual
mind
level.
is the old woman who comes into the temple, right? And she has 2 coins that are worth less than a penny, and you have the super rich and wealthy filling the coffers with money, but they're just giving away their pocket change. They're giving away something that doesn't even have an effect on them, and this woman is giving every last dime,
Right.
penny that she has, and at that point, it's pointed out obviously that she's given way more because she's given everything, even though
because it's a sacrifice.
even though it's only 2 little bits or whatever. So I think if you were to look at it as a wealthy person. I'm not a wealthy person by any means, so it's easier for me to sit here and say, well, if I were wealthy, I would do these things. But yeah, I mean,
I think you would.
You're supposed to give till it hurts, right? You're supposed to give till, or some people say till you smile. But either way, you're supposed to be looking within and asking God, what is it that I should be doing with my money, with my gifts? And I think you can also be greedy with the gifts that God gives you. You know, if you're a musician and you all you do is use your music talent to satiate yourself, or I don't know, you're not sharing those gifts that God gave you. I think in a whole other way, that's greed, even though it's not quite the same. But anyway, what were you saying?
You made me think of another anecdotal thing when you were talking about the giving all you had. And I'm not by any means claiming this. It's an anecdotal story, though, and it was just a thought that crept in my mind. It was another realization, I guess, that I had in real time. There was a day at Mass where my little one came out to grab, I was ushering or something, so I was out there, but they were going to do collection.
Yeah.
And I reached in my pocket, and I pulled out, I remember the amount, it was $8. I had $8 cash in my wallet to give to him to go put into the basket. I gave him the 5, and I was going to put the 3 in my pocket.
Right.
And then as I was putting the 3 in my pocket, I thought, why am I holding back on the 3? Like, it was just a weird thought that I had, but I questioned myself, right? I went to hand him the 5 to keep the 3, because in my mind, I'm like, oh, maybe I need $1 for something later.
Right.
I don't know. But it was a weird kind of jump in mind where then I went, I just gave him the whole 8, and then he took it.
Yeah.
We go home, get undressed from the church clothes, put on some shorts, reach in my pocket. I had exactly $8 in my pocket. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, just the fact that I noticed it and the fact that it came up and then it correlated to something else. It was almost like God telling me, yes, just give it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
it's his money anyway.
Right.
That's one thing that I think we could learn from this lesson. We over. That's okay. We'll deal with it. One thing that we can learn from this, I think, is that giving. We can be generous with God's money because it's God's money. He's intending us to be generous with it. It's not our money. The job that we have is because God let us have that job, even if it's a terrible job. If we do our job with conviction and we do it and we dedicate our job, unless it's working in something seedy, if you know what I'm saying. But being a custodian, being a heart doctor, being all of these things have tremendous value if you do them as the best you can because you're doing them for God.
Right.
So it can turn anything into a saintly act rather than I hate my job. This sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. You can turn the worst job in the world into something meritorious, and that money that you earn, it's God's. He wants you to obviously take care of that money and do things good with it. So there is the parable of the how much money did he I can't remember the exact verbiage, so I'm going to screw it up. But you have the one worker who he gives, is it a coin? And then he tells them all to increase it, and one of them gets nervous and buries it, and one of them, goes and takes it and is only able to double it, and then you've got one that goes and takes it and blows it up into much bigger riches. This is a horrible retelling of this parable, but the point of that is that, one of them didn't do what God asked or what his boss asked, and he just kind of kept it because he was afraid. And then the other two went and made the money flourish. God gives us these gifts, gives us money, gives us a roof over our head, and we're supposed to do something with those gifts. And rather than hoard them to ourselves or hide them in the ground so that we don't lose our precious little gift, we can take those gifts and we can expand them. And so when you give $8 out of your pocket and reach into your shorts later and find another $8, it's God just saying that you followed his will, that you did what he's asking you to do. So anyway, sorry, that's what it made me think of.
Love it.
Beautiful.
It's good, right? Beautiful. Yep.
All right, I think we've rambled on a little too long this time. So if you guys are still watching for some reason at this point, like,
And you
comment.
haven't seen a Star Wars scene.
You can watch the original 3, or you can watch the new 3, but you might want to poke your eyeballs out afterwards. So, I love it. I'm not even a Star Wars fan. So if anyway, long story short, subscribe, all that stuff. We appreciate you. We love you, and we ask you to love each other. God bless you, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Go to confession.
Oh yeah, good job.
In nomine